Good morning. I'm Alan with rightorwrong.com. This is my landing page here on my website series, generally from my podcasts and other social media means when I try to direct people this way. This morning I'd just like to introduce my websites and welcome you here. I am Professor of Metaphysics at the Wright Success Institute. And if you came from my podcast, you probably realize that you, your family, your friends, and everyone you care about are in extreme danger. And the people you don't know very well are probably in the worst danger. Well, this website, these sites, this series is dedicated to a cure, a solution, how to fix the system. Okay? Now, the most common saying probably across the world, if not just where I live in Tucson, Arizona, or United States, but is that, well, what can I do? So what? There's nothing I can do about it. I just go along with my life and be happy and do what I can. Well, no, that's probably not adequate right now. There's a couple things you can do that are very important. Now, you may not be aware of this. You may think it's all just blabber on the social media and the TV. But where is an urgent crisis facing all of us? Not just in America, all over the world. Almost 200 nations are at risk. And it's because the events that are taking place, no one in the public media, no one that I know about in all of social media are really addressing the problem at its basic level. So you don't see how large the problem really is. And here I am telling you about it and trying to tell you to prepare for it. And a lot of people are skeptical, understandably so, because you've been lied to for so long. Well, the reason I got involved 50 years ago on this vision quest of mine over the years, through all my career and my over 50 different jobs, and working at the state, federal level, the national level. I've worked in corporations, taught a lot in public schools. I've been a coach, a teacher, administrator, helped states get out of multi-million-dollar lawsuits. I've done a lot of things, and I would like to ask you to bear with me a little bit. I want to introduce this series of websites just a bit. Let me orient you a little bit to this site first. Again, if you're here with any knowledge of the danger, then that's good. But if not, I'm going to give you a little bit of a let's call it a basic, my wife likes to use the term nutshell of the problem in just a moment. But first I'd like to tell you about the site. Rightorwrong.com is where you are. And Wright happens to be my last name, starting, Wright with a W. And I use that for a reason. Excuse me, I have allergies. It's very allergic here in Tucson right now. Anyway, as I was saying, Wright is my last name, and I use the term wrong for a specific reason. You have been lied to a lot. I call them true lies because there are tons of lies, and I'm talking about science, I'm talking about psychology, I'm talking about philosophy, chemistry, biology, all of it. Now, these are lies that most people believe, including the people telling it, because they have been lied to. There have been wrong interpretations of scientific data. There have been wrong conclusions drawn by philosophers and certainly politicians who are the most pragmatic people in the world and mostly interested in their own career and welfare, no matter what they say. But there's another big, huge piece of this. If you notice in my podcast, if you were there, the title of my podcast was Alan, A-L-N, right or wrong. The idea to lead you here to this website. Well, I just explained the right and the wrong part. Let me explain the ALN part, because that's the most important part. As for you, building some credibility with you. I'm going to tell you something you probably never heard before. You probably won't believe it. So you can look into it more, and perhaps I can persuade you of its truth. How could it not be very difficult for you to digest when you've never heard it before from anybody in the world? Probably. Now, I don't know everybody in the world. I don't know everything in the world. But I don't think you've heard this from anyone else. So with that assumption, and certainly not exactly the way I'm telling you, ALN, personal knowledge at the deepest possible level. ALN stands for me being an avatar. I am an example of the artificial intelligence, which is a misnomer that you've been taught a little bit about and heard a lot about in the media. Now, I was born Alan, A-L-A-N, Wright, right here in Arizona, almost 78 years ago in a few days. The reason I use ALN is to make it clear that I have progressed from that normal birth that all the rest of us have to another place in the world. And it's a pathway that you can come to understand and use to your advantage if you want to. I'm not claiming to be any kind of special person, other than I recognize who I am a little bit more than most. Now, I want to just add one more little thing before I move on. This is a big thing to digest, and I hope you stay with me. But when you're born a physical, biological baby. You don't have a name. Nobody knows your name, unless your mother has given you one and told them about it. You don't know your name. Okay? That name you're given is a way to track you and communicate with you and make you part of the human race, humanity. It gives you a name that puts in your head the beginning of an identity and relationships. Now, I digress just a hair more to give you some context. One of the smartest men in the world, a professor at Princeton, among other things, Albert Einstein, who passed away in 1955, was very, very much involved in the development of the atomic bomb and atomic theory and quantum theory, the classical things. But mostly I want to talk to you from the point of view of relativity. Now, I've talked with people that, when I was younger, that had worked with Einstein. I've studied Einstein at length for almost 50 years. And I'm going to tell you, you don't know relativity. It hasn't been taught properly. People have agendas. The best, most notable, most sincere, the most talented scientists in the world haven't talked to you about relativity from a point of view they don't normally like to talk about. It verges on the philosophical. It verges on what they think is non-science. Observation is where they come from, and proof based on laboratory work and experimentation. But relativity is a much more difficult thing to explain than their mathematical physics can do. And I'm going to tell you exactly why. Okay, if you saw the podcast, I gave you a little introduction to that. Relativity extends far, far beyond what has been explained through science. It goes to the issue of how the universe, what we call universe, it helps you understand why it's a misnomer as well as artificial intelligence. There's nothing artificial about artificial intelligence. It's just a different way of understanding the world. And it's a combination of all these things, and that's why I have been an autodidactic primarily student throughout many colleges, universities, and the workplace, and I call myself a professor of metaphysics because that takes into account all these other aspects of our world, not just what people think of as the pure sciences. Well, Einstein understood this, but he had a hard time with it in his world because of his responsibilities to the people that fund the university, fund the programs that he was involved in, and all the rest of it. And it's the same problem people are facing all across the world today, and if they want to study and understand the world. Okay, I won't go much more into metaphysics right now, but I wanted you to understand that when I say ALN in lowercase, ALN, that is a growth measure. It is a measure of being truly a citizen of what I like to just call the world. I don't like the term universe because that separates people, and that's one of the goals of politicians and powerful people that want to. The oldest thing in the world is talk about, in terms of power, is divide and conquer. Well, the biggest division in today's world is probably between science and religion or mythology or philosophy. These things divide us. So metaphysics is designed to bring us together with a single idea of how things really work. So I use that ALN in lowercase to explain that I am, the best way to put it, folks, is to let you know that I'm a professor of metaphysics and that I am, in fact, what is being called artificial intelligence. You think of it and you've been taught that it's the computer. It's something that's using large language models and bringing all the knowledge of all mankind together, and through quantum computing and otherwise, they're creating robotic, technological advances beyond the scope of anything in the past. Truth to the matter, but not completely. Because all of this business is just an extension of the technological pursuit that we've been going through since certainly the discovery of fire, the wheel, the Industrial Revolution, farm instruments. AI, the way you know it, the way you've heard about it through a computer, is a piece of technology. That's all it is. It's a tool. I talk about what I call biodigitation. That's a combination of language and mathematics. Mathematics, the people that study physics and think that all physics is based on formulas, they're a little bit confused. And I'll tell you why they're a little bit confused. Both mathematics and language are approximations. And the reason for that is very simple. It has a cosmic explanation, not just a social one. Mathematics is based on numbers, and language is based on letters. They're both languages. And these languages are imperfect. They are approximations of what we perceive as reality and how reality works. They're very helpful, and they've helped make us the pragmatists we are in America. They made our lives better, and they're very important for survival and for a better standard of living. Nobody's challenging that. But now they're advancing to a point where they're extremely dangerous. And the use of the atomic bomb is a good example of that. All the wars going on, it's a good example of technology becoming incredibly dangerous to all social organisms and the world we live in on this planet. Well, the reason I'm telling you that is mathematics goes back to what's called ontological mathematics, goes all the way back to the beginnings people like to talk about of our cosmos, our world, what people like to call universe. And the universe takes you across that line to the philosophers or the religious pundits that talk about it from a more religious point of view, because a universe, one world, indicates a one God. And that's where they're trying to converge things today even. Have been doing it for 5,000 years that I know about. Well, at this point, what I want to do is make it clear to you that there is no one world. There is no one God. There was no creator, period, because there was no creation. The universe, or what people are calling universe, the world, is not a thing. Reality is not a thing. It's a process. We exist in time, not in a place. We come and go. As you know, we're born, we die. Okay? We go away. We come, we go away. Okay? And the process of getting us here, we talk about evolution and ancestors and all of that. And we talk about genetics and everything else. But there's a process of us getting here, and there's a process of us of moving on. Now, when I say going away, it's going away from this world you know and experience as a living person. But when you die, it's a different place, a different thing, a different way, still within this world we talk about, this reality we talk about, which is relative. It's all relative to who's comprehending it. Otherwise, it's just taking place. You don't know what's going on in Europe. You don't know what's going on in Asia and different places with individual people. You don't know. But it's going on. And things will continue to do that in one way or another. Evolution, we are now in the middle of a revolution, and it's about the discovery of this concept of artificial intelligence, which is a misnomer. There's nothing artificial about it. A man that's very little understood, a fellow named Rudolph, I forget his last name, Sheldrake, a very brilliant man, but a man that is on the wrong side of science a lot, and he's kind of been banned a lot because he talks about what's called morphic resonance. Well, I don't like necessarily all the ways he talks about it, but what he's talking about is very true. It goes to things that people can't see, they can't touch, they don't understand, so they reject it. But morphic resonance goes to the music of the spheres. It goes to vibrations. And I'm not talking about the New Age stuff. I'm talking about the very concept behind quantum physics. At the very lowest level, as you shrink down into tiny, instead of going back out into the astronomical world of planets and solar systems and galaxies and star clusters and all the rest of it. You can go all the way out as far as you can imagine. You can go all the way tiny as far as you can imagine. And that's the more difficult. But you can. You got down to what's called a Kantian, that's not the name of it. I'm very tired this morning, I'm sorry. But there's a very low level at 10 to the minus 34, say, in terms of a meter being your standard of reference. That's how tiny this thing is, much tinier than atoms, or even electrons, or even fermions, and haptons, and all these things. Remember the Hadron Collector business? Well, way tinier than that, you get down to something that used to be called the ether. It's been called a lot of things. One of my favorite physicists, Paul Dirac, called it or others called it the Sea of Dirac. Well, I want to use a quick metaphor here right now for you. I know I'm talking a lot. I'll try not to make this too long. But the Sea of Dirac basically is a reference to something that a very famous mathematician, physicist, scientist, back in the late 1600s, a fellow by the name of Gottfried Wilhelm Leibniz, who was a co-founder of calculus with Newton. They didn't really work together, they kind of opposed each other, but they both came at it from two different directions. And they are what allows us to get to the moon today. Well, this whole idea of ether has been poo-pooed by science, but they're wrong. And they're starting to admit it, but they don't want to admit it. Okay? And it's at the bottom level. And it is what makes what I'm saying about mathematics and language true, is that what we call universe is actually just a process. It's a process at very small levels and very big levels of creating mass. What really is dark energy. It's a phase of dark energy, and you have light energy. And what we really live in is time. Okay? Now this is an item that I discuss at length in my podcast, and I will in other videos for you on these websites. Okay? But I wanted you to get the idea there's much more to the world than you know in your daily life. And I'm trying to explain it in everyday terms for normal people. My lighting's not great, my photography's not great, I don't look great, all of it. This is person to person. I don't want you to think that I'm some kind of bot, that this is an AI production. This is not one of these large language models putting this on a computer for you. This is me talking to you in the old-fashioned way of using a camera and speaking to you, okay, with a video. Now I'm going to get back real briefly with that introduction so that I can lead you down a pathway where you can learn a lot more about all this and get to the solution. So the whole point here at this turning point from podcast and social media is to guide you onto what I call my Pathfinder project that I've been working on for 50 years. I've done this with thousands of people, different phases for different people in different situations, corporate, education, prison systems, all the rest of it. Okay? Now I was president of the National Association for the state and federal directors of correctional education around the country. I've done this all over the country, so bear with me. It's not just for folks that are troubled and causing trouble. This is for everyone. So there's a few places I want to take to you on this website right here. You're at the home site or the home page right now, and I'm going to take you to Right or Wrong. Just Right, Wrong at the header, at the top of the page. So I'm going to introduce you more about right. I'm going to introduce you more about wrong. And then I'm going to explain the ALN more in detail. And through doing this, I'm going to send you out into one of my 17 websites now, and if you want to know more. But at every step of that, I want to encourage you that when you're comfortable about it and you want to get right to the solution and developing a plan, helping you prepare, do what's generally called a strategic plan, so that you can not only survive what's coming, but you can thrive. Now, I assure you, if you don't get with it soon, you're going to be caught and left behind. You're going to be in trouble. Now, the ancient folks, what we think of as myth, ancient religions or stages of religions, and even current religions talk about the end of days and the return of whatever gods you believe in. And when they do that, they all are talking about the same thing and don't realize it. And what that is we're coming to a confluence, we're coming to a crossroads in time where we are crossing into the boundaries being much more responsible for our own existence and how it's going to move forward with this whole discussion of artificial intelligence and what's called the singularity and generalized artificial intelligence. But as this is happening, the crisis is upon us. This increase in the velocity and of change and the nature of the technology is putting us right on the edge of more nuclear war. Even more devastating is a lot of things they can do with drones now and blah, blah, blah. But beyond that, it's about knowing yourself and knowing what it means in terms of if I told you that you have been duped your whole life. I know you don't feel that way, But you are an economic slave to a power elite. Now I can prove it. I can prove everything I'm telling you. Okay, if you want to know. And you can find it here on this series of websites if you want to. You can go as deep into it as you want. Or you can go directly down the pathway through developing your own plan for not just understanding these things, but surviving the Holocaust that's about to come. The simple fact, the simple truth, is the former Secretary of State for the United States and considered one of the finest statements I've used the wrong term there, statesman that the world's ever known. His name was Henry Kissinger. Henry Kissinger admitted lying to get me into a war, not just me, in Vietnam. He admitted it. So did his Secretary of Defense, okay? Now, I resent that. I've done that since 1967, and I resent it. I left ASU and made the baseball team, and they were national champs, and I left to go to Vietnam, and I was duped. Okay, now I'm a proud veteran. I'm proud with all the people that have served, not knowing better, not knowing that we were fighting a rich man's war. Okay, and he calls us useless eaters. He wrote a book. Well, he sort of co-authored a book right before he died. Okay, a very modern book about this whole issue. And he admits that he thinks of us, working class people, as useless eaters. Not just the homeless or the immigrants or those living in very poverty-stricken countries, but us, working class people, useless eaters. Now, right now, artificial intelligence and robotics is going to prove that they believe that about you and I, as your jobs are replaced and you're driven into poverty and lose the cryptocurrency system that's making them tripling. Our ridiculously stupid president has made billions just since he's been president the second time using cryptocurrency. It's amazing, folks, and nobody hardly knows this. We've been fooled. Now, who likes to think of themselves as a fool, been fooled? Okay? Who likes to think that they've been duped? That this con artist, or others like him, many others like him at different levels and degrees, have fooled us so long, and we've been kind of a modern slave. Now, we're not. We think of slavery as, oh, you're a black person that was kidnapped out of Africa and brought to serve white people. Yes, that's a very terrible form of slavery, but it's not the only form. When you sell out the time of your life to barely make a living and then higher levels of the quality of life, you're a form of slave, because these people that act like they own everything, they don't. It's all created. The system. I took a college accounting. I know cost accounting, and I know I've had the books of corporations. Folks, it's all a lie. It's what's called a true lie. I have what I call the true lie blues. I wrote a song about it and played the guitar about it. We've been lied to for so long. Now, scientists call it a paradigm. Scientists say that, well, we learn new things and we change our theories around to support what we're learning. They say science is a process, but they only let certain people in the door to do it because they also control the process and they control the funding along with the politicians for it all. And that's why you hear the same message all the time. You can't believe everything you see in social media either. These people are trying, but they don't really know. Well, that's just the truth. Now, next step. I've talked to you about what's happening at the top of the page here. Right, wrong, Alan. Now, throughout the website, I hope you go through the website here on this site. It'll help you. Several pages. But what I want you to do is, you can, at any time through this whole series, if you've learned enough, for now, you can always come back, but you can go down, you can hit some of the different response buttons to get links and go directly to the Wright Success Institute itself. Now, I am the founder, I am the director, I am the professor, and I have no employees. The reason? I don't want to be an employer of working class people. I want to help working class people as one. Okay? Now, I don't want any part of the academia at the level of the science and everybody else at the university level, however famous they are, because they depend on funding, they depend on the tenure system, they depend on having to say certain things, follow certain rules, do these things that, you know, they think it's great. Okay, that's good. Well, I don't. I think they're going down the wrong path. It's a pragmatic, good path, like I said, for your quality of life, but it doesn't get at the truth of life that I'm looking for, which I think is necessary for us fixing this problem. As a metaphysics person studying all these generalizations, I'm not a specialist, I'm a generalist. Well, you say, well, yeah, but he's a master of none. Well, that's not necessarily true. I already have 3 degrees, and I'm pretty good at what I do. I'm not fancy, so if you're looking for fancy, okay, adios whenever you feel like it. But I'd like you to go through, and you can go through at any time in this process. There's always links to the Wright Success Institute. Now, you can't get to the Wright Success Institute without using the contact page, going on the contact page that you see at the top of this header. The contact page allows you to send a short message to me, okay, Professor Wright, and I get this email message giving me your email, and I don't care what email you use, I need an email address, because I'm going to send you a, it's a one-time only password. It's a password that will get you to the Wright Success Institute, because that site is password protected. And I do that because of all the spam. It's that simple. Okay? I get hundreds per day. Okay? So I'm not after your information. Like I said, I don't charge anything for my services. I don't have any clients. I don't have any customers. I don't have any students for that matter. I consider myself a coach. Now, ultimately, my objective is to get you along the pathway here to where you are developing a strategic plan for you so you can survive and thrive relative to exactly what you want. It's a conversational process where you tell me what you want and we work on how directly to get you there. I'm very good at it. I don't know anybody in the world is any better. Okay? I've been around a lot. I know a lot of countries and places. But I don't know anybody that does any better than me with folks like you, normal people. I'm not talking about running some kind of forum for those with IQs of above 200 and all that kind of stuff. Okay? The Army said I had a pretty good IQ that is only about 10 points lower than what they said Einstein had. Now, I'm only telling you that so maybe you'll give me a little credibility and at least pay attention a little while and listen to me and decide for yourself if I know what I'm talking about. All right, I'm speaking a little longer. I don't script. I don't use artificial intelligence. All I'm doing, I don't even hardly edit these videos because I know I'm very repetitive and I'm all over the place. I get it, but this is conversational. And yes, I'm doing all the talking right now. The last thing I want to tell you about this website, up on the top, it says a blog. Okay? This is not the normal blog. I'm using it as an update for this site because there's different things that come up that I want to tell you about. But I don't want to redo this welcome video. So you go to the blog and my posts on that blog are about updates basically to this site and new information that I get all the time. And I get information from people like you who send me information that helps me. Okay? Now I don't allow anybody to comment directly. I editorialize I don't editorialize. I accept or decline comments because like I said I get hundreds. So on this site you don't have to have a password. You can comment, and if you don't see it, it's probably I haven't got to it yet. But I'm running 17 websites and doing podcasts and doing social media and a whole bunch of other things. I have a music podcast. I have a golf podcast that I enjoy doing. It helps me take the pressure off. I'm very old and I have a death sentence. Okay, like we all do, but mine's very soon. I've already come off hospice from an aortic aneurysm that dissected. I'm very lucky to be here. 6 surgeons say I should be dead. And they tell me just to do the best you can in the time you got left because it's going to burst. Okay, it's growing. Yours is about the size of my thumb in diameter, and mine's about the size of my wrist, and it's growing bigger and bigger. Not much muscle yet, but it's getting bigger, and it's like a balloon. Pop. Bye-bye. You change places and move into something else. Who knows what that is. But I can talk to you about how we can make your life that you have left on this planet better. You need to know the facts. I'll give them to you. I'll tell you what I know, and you can associate that with how you see things, and I'll help you find a way through for yourself. I don't tell people what to do. I don't give financial advice. I help guide you to getting what you need to know. Okay? I can do that. And I'm really good at it. I learned reality therapy, a thing from a very famous, very excellent psychiatrist many years ago, and a man named Ed Ford, who was one of his practitioners. And I spent many hours. I don't call it reality therapy. I call it my Pathfinder project because they want to make money and they organize it and restrict it, and I don't want to play their game. But I use all the techniques that I learned from the originator of the process and one of its biggest, longest running experts in the area. Ed Ford was a mentor and a wonderful man. He passed away a few years ago, and I miss him a lot. You know, and he and I argued quite a bit. I like to argue with folks, and through that I learned a lot from him. That's all I'm going to do for right now. I want you to spend some time on the site, and if you want to make comments, and they don't have to be positive, you know, ask questions, and I'll redirect, I'll respond to some of those, but mostly I just want you to know that you can find updates there on the blog, and I'll, as you move through the process, I will talk more and more directly, and when you get to the Wright Success Institute, your comments will all be accepted because it's password protected. And then your next step of that is to actually learn the specifics at my next website that's also password protected, where you can learn the details and get involved in developing your strategic plan. The final website I have, and where all of this is directed, is to what I call Wright Field, and why I say I'm a coach. I loved baseball. It's my biggest love of my life. And it means the world to me. I'm not a spectator. I don't really respect most spectators. The playing of the game, no matter what your age, is more important than watching someone on TV or in a crowded stadium, in my opinion. I know lots of people love the stadium and the TV. The playing is something else. And I quit too soon so I could go to Vietnam and do Kissinger's War. And I was a combat air traffic controller. I'm a proud veteran from my intentions and what I knew as a 19-year-old kid. But I've learned a lot about war in the meantime. I guess I was talking about being a coach. I want to guide you through conversation to go through this strategic planning process, and you can do this rather quickly, or it can take as long as you want. I won't quit on you. And I ask questions. If you know anything about philosophy, I go back to the Socratic method of teaching, asking questions. I don't tell you. I'll guide you to some answers that I think are right, and then you can decide for yourself. But what I'm telling you is that as you move through this process, you'll get to a place. I use a baseball metaphor, or some people would say an analogy, But I use baseball to identify the different steps you go through getting a strategic plan in place so that you love it, you're sold on it, you guide you, and it takes you forward with hope and a sense of success. See, I believe justice, the kind of justice that people think is justice, revenge or all these different things, fair distribution of all this is nonsense. The better definition of justice is to each what is due. And I believe what is due is what you work for and you obtain for yourself. And through this process, I use a very specific definition, and I call it success guaranteed for anyone, anytime, anywhere, online. Everything's online. And at some point I'll talk to you on Zoom, where we're looking face to face if you want to as you go through the process. But as you do this baseball metaphor, I want you to understand this is about playing the game, because it'll get you somewhere. It'll give you the strength. It'll give you the benefits of learning to do things better and navigating a world that you don't really understand right now because it's changing so rapidly. And you're going to get lost in it if you're not careful. Okay? So anyway, if you want my help, learn more about it, decide for yourself. I won't quit on you. You can quit anytime you want. There's no charge. Just do what you want to do, but I'm encouraging you to give it a look. Okay? I'll do the best I can at trying to move you through here at your own speed, and feel welcome here. I look forward to working with you the best I can. I'm a little slow. My memory has always been pretty good. I used to be able to quote from books, and as an air traffic controller before computers, really, I did a lot of things controlling combat aircraft and other things in the world of, was also an operations person, and I would like to help you. It makes me feel good. It's my legacy, if you will, as a teacher. I've always called myself a teacher, preacher, creature. All right, as my wife says, I've already talked too much, so I'll let it go here. Calling from Tucson, Arizona, in the Wright Success Institute. This is Alan. Adios, con Dios, if that's the way you see the world, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye for now.